everyone, this is Daphne Valson, and today I'm just going to be having a conversation with you all about a few different things because based on where we're at as a society right now, a lot of people are seeking different kinds of services, coaching services, therapy services. I see a lot of people are asking about mentorship and how and when to pursue mentors. And of course, I know that people are rekindling friendships from the past as they are really wanting to form more connections with different people who maybe they've been connected to in the past. So what I wanted to do today is to talk about something. Hey, Ashley. Hey, Maya. Hey, Rose. So I wanted to talk about something that I think is really important for people to know. This is actually something that I talk about very briefly at the beginning of every consultation that I do as a coach. I'm a coach, speaker, and trainer, and I always say that it is my passion to help people thrive at life, work, and business. Thank you, Ashley. But I really think this is so critical to understand the differences between these services, because sometimes we need a few different pieces of these different things, and sometimes we need one instead of the other. And part of my ethical obligation as a coach is to help people to go to the right thing that they need, to say, hey, maybe coaching isn't what you're looking for right now. Maybe it's therapy is more what you need. So we're going to break down all of these different kinds of things. I myself have experienced all of them, so I feel like I can really explain to you what the differences are. So let's first talk about, let's go to consulting first. So what a consultant does, hey Larnell, what a consultant does is a consultant might create a plan for you to be able to implement something that you really need help with. Maybe it's a financial consultant, like a financial advisor. Maybe it's someone who is helping you to start your business and they're actually doing the business plan for you. A consultant might be someone who, like from Legal Shield, is doing some legal work for you. When it comes to something that you want planned for you, or maybe you even want someone to implement the plan for you, that is what a consultant does. An event consultant might implement something for you. So let's say you're starting a business and you want someone to do all of the advertising work for you, and you want them to create all of the marketing language for you. That is a consultant. They do all the work for you. Some coaches integrate consulting into their coaching, but and some mentors even might say, hey, you know what, send that over and I'll actually just take care of it for you. That is more consulting versus some of the other things that I'll talk about, okay? So then we have, I'll talk a little bit about coaching and I'll go into therapy. So what a coach does is they ask you empowering questions to push you closer towards your goals, your dreams, your vision, and your desires, right? It's a collaborative process instead of the consultant who actually plans it for you. So consultant plan everything for you, gives you the answers. Coach actually asks you first, what are your thoughts about this? If you could envision anything, what would your vision look like? All right, what have you already done? There's a lot of questions, more questions than straight answers. A mix of coaching and consulting is they ask you questions. They say, first, let me hear what your thinking is. And then now let me also let you know what my thoughts are based on what you said. Then a coach should say, based on what I told you, what are your thoughts about what you should be doing? What are you leaning towards? What are the choices? So coaching, asking questions, maybe also making a suggestion to say, hey, might I have your permission to make a suggestion? Client says yes, and then coach gives advice. Consultants may be going into consulting. Some of you all are exploring doing these things. A consultant may go into consulting as a result of their expertise they've gained from their experience in a certain topic. So, hey, Nasha, so you could be a teacher and go into being an educational consultant. You could have had like really amazing, experience in careers and getting a job and become a career consultant, right? But as a coach is often trained in order to be able to ask these kinds of questions to push people towards where it is they want to go. So certified coaches or coaches that study the aspects of what the International Coaching Federation calls what coaching is, we're not supposed to be like, hey, this is what you do and that's it. We're supposed to say, hey, what do you want to do? Here are some options to think about. Maybe, right? Maybe offer some suggestions and then say, so based on these suggestions, what is it that you want to do based on what I just mentioned? And then in a collaborative process, I'm saying, so what is the next step for you? And then I might say as a coach, because I'm asking questions because I'm curious and I want to make sure that the client is totally engaged in the process, what challenges you might you encounter along the way to that step? On a scale of 1 to 10, how likely is it that you're going to really pursue that step? What's stopping you? Then we're working through what's stopping them. So our goal is to get the client to action. Okay? So let's go back to therapy. Let's go to therapy. So the difference between therapy and coaching is a therapist would allow you, possibly, depending on the therapist, to sit more with the details of your story. So coach is trying to get you to action, to future, to be future focused. We may talk about your story a little bit and then move you forward to, all right, so presently what's going on, and then what is your vision moving forward, and then how do we get you there, and then what challenges are you experiencing along the way, and let's make that happen. Whereas a therapy might be saying, tell me more about the challenges you faced. So how did that make you feel? Therapists might say, so tell me, so what you're saying is your cousin said that? Wow. So when you were back there, can you help me to go there with you? Tell me what was going on. And what do you think your brother was like? So therapist is helping you to really sit with the details of your past so that you can find peace in the midst of those details and be able to operate in the present in a more healthy way, in a more clear way. Whereas coach is saying, hey, we're gonna move you forward. Like, so based on that, so you said that being the middle sibling, you never knew if you were leading or if you were following, and now sometimes you have a challenge leading and following. So based on you now wanting to be a senior executive in your job, what do you think is coming up for you with you pursuing that position? So how can you reframe that so that you can feel more comfortable pursuing the senior executive role? Because the coach would have said, it sounds like you're uncomfortable with getting in the senior executive role. What's going on here? Tell me about that. Oh, you don't feel like you're uncomfortable? Okay, so tell me more about what it is that you're feeling. All right, and then by the end point of the call, coach should be getting the client to figure out what the next step is, versus the therapist may say, let's dig deeper into the sibling relationship. Where did these feelings start? What's going on now with that? And what other dynamics existed there? How is this showing up presently in your life? Let's keep going back. Let's dig deeper. So if you are looking for a place to unpack what happened in your past because you feel like you really need to talk about the details, and for a number of us, especially like really ambitious people who have like really deep stories about our past, we have not taken the time to properly unpack our past if we feel like that would be helpful for us right now. And where it could be helpful is if you feel like you're repeating habits that you got because of your youth, because of something that you went through. It may be time to address that and then let it go through therapy. So here's where therapy and coaching could work together. So let's say coach is working with you, right? You're supposed to be applying to these jobs, the senior executive positions. You're supposed to be being a better leader as a manager, and something is stopping you. Every day you're having arguments with your staff. You're not applying to the jobs that you're supposed to be applying to. In the coaching sessions, you seem really ambitious, and then the other times you seem really low. You seem really down on yourself. You're speaking really badly about yourself, out loud or in your mind, in your heart. You may need to talk to a therapist to dig deep to find out where's the anger coming from? Where is my hesitation coming from? Why am I saying that I'm going to do all these things and I'm not doing them? Okay, so some coaches have been trained in a component of coaching. I haven't been trained in this, but I would love to get trained in this, called NLP. So NLP coaches, neuro-linguistic programming. So those coaches have been trained in how to dig deeper. This is just my opinion, my summary of NLP. How to dig deeper into the root of your past in order to coach you more effectively. But what we've been trained to do, and this is a 9-month coaching certification, I went through thousands of dollars. What we've been trained to do is move you forward. So again, if you need to be talking about the past, most likely therapy. If you're just looking for someone to give you the answer, consultant. If you're looking for someone to not give you the answer, but you're like, yeah, I really need to know how to do a contract, because this is a true story. Client today doing an LLC. He wants to do an operating agreement. I said, well, what kind of research do you need to do in order to make sure that you're doing your operating agreement effectively? Why I need to do this, that? Or he's like, I'm not sure. Okay, well, what are your thoughts about looking up templates on operating agreement? Maybe I can send one to you. And then what do you think the next step should be after you have that template in hand? Oh, okay, so maybe you should make your own template from that template. I suggest Google Docs, because then you have your files together at all times. What are your thoughts about maybe doing the template for your own operating agreement based on this template by the next time we speak? So that's a mixture of consulting and coaching. So what I do is a mix of mentorship, coaching, and consulting. So it's asking questions. I'm asking, what's the next step? What do you want? Okay, you want to make sure that you're organized, your businesses has the operations in order, they're in compliance. All right, so let me tell you what are some things that you need to think about, and what are your thoughts about what you can do next? And then I might say, hey, so-and-so, is this too much that I've given you? Is this just right in terms of the amount of homework that I'm giving you based on your business? And then, is this feasible for you to do? Oh, give you more? Okay, so here are some other steps. What are your thoughts about that based on what you said is your vision for what you want to do moving forward? So I'm not doing the operating agreement. I'm holding the client accountable for doing the operating agreement. And if the client doesn't do the things that they said that they needed to do, then it's my job as a coach to hold them accountable, but not just saying, why didn't you do it, and not listening. As a coach, we're co-creating the coaching process. That's like one of the themes that we're tested on. We have to co-create the coaching process. So I'll say, hey, so-and-so, so how did it go doing the operating agreement? Oh, you didn't get a chance to do it? Tell me more about that. Okay, so you mentioned that you were busy, but you also mentioned that you said that you wanted to commit 3 to 5 hours of coaching per week. Tell me what ended up happening for you that you weren't able to do this assignment within the allotted time that you mentioned that you might have free for coaching. Oh, you just need to reprioritize? Oh, okay, so you need to adjust your schedule. So when it comes to adjusting your schedule, how can you integrate more time into your schedule so that you're able to do the things that you have committed to do? Okay, so you want to dedicate mornings. Now, based on what you mentioned to me about your family and valuing this, would mornings actually be the best time for you to do your work? Yes? Okay, what specific time would you be doing the work in the morning? 8 a.m.? What can you do to make sure that that work gets done in the morning? Okay, put it in your calendar. Does that calendar usually, how much does that calendar usually work for you? We're not supposed to ask yes or no questions. Then they tell me, and I say, when are you able to put that in your calendar? Right now? Okay, I'll go ahead and give you a few moments to do that. Tell me when you're done. Oh, you're done? Great, awesome. So what you're saying is you're committing to doing this week. Between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. every day this week, you're going to be working on your operating agreement. So between this call and next call, you'll have that done. And the way that you're not going to have distractions is that you're going to do this, and that to get it done. So as you can see, I'm not doing the agreement as a consultant would do. I'm not going deep into tell me about, your family and the issues that are coming up when it comes to being focused. I'm not doing it. I'm saying we're going to get this operating agreement done like you said you wanted to do, and I'm going to help you with the process, and we're going to talk through the challenges, and I'm going to hold you accountable to taking action to get it done. So that's what I'm doing. I'm helping people break down the process. So let's go back to friendship. So friendship versus coaching versus therapy and mentorship and all these different things. So if you told a friend, hey, I'm not getting this operating agreement done, I might be like, man, well, what's going on? Thanks, Nasha. What's going on with the operating agreement? Oh, a lot of things coming up, the kids doing this. Oh man, how old are the kids again? 4? Well, I remember back in the day when my kids were 4, this, was happening and that. Tell me if you remember your friend talking to you this way, right? Or think about it. So yeah, and this happened and da-da-da-da. You know what Jasmine did the other day? She was doing this and that. All of a sudden, we're not talking about your operating agreement anymore. I'm not holding you accountable to a process to move the operating agreement forward, but I am offering you a space to be able to share your feelings if I'm a good friend. And I'm listening, and I might be sharing my story, or I might be giving you advice. Girl, you better schedule that thing in. When I schedule things in, it works real well. And you're like, yeah, man, I need to schedule it in. Man, so I can't wait till you get that done, man. You're going to have such a good business. So I'm giving you very general advice. Maybe if you have like a friend that's, very coachy, maybe they'll do the whole process. But as a coach, we've been trained to say, well, what's the process gonna be? What needs to be done when it comes to the process? What could stop the person? And we have to get them to very specific action steps that we've covered the majority of details so that they can get it done. If we have enough time on the call to do that, I would say. If we don't have enough time on the call to do that, I need to make sure I get as far as I can to make sure that the client has everything that they need to take action. So a friend is giving you advice. They're offering you a good space to maybe feel like you can express yourself, which is really great. You may even be able to tell them the story of man, I feel like I'm always stuck. And then they'll be like, well, why you feel like that? When I was little, this thing happened, that. And if you have a friend that's really good at listening and helping you process things, you might come from that conversation really feeling moved and feeling like your life has changed, which is really awesome. So sometimes, again, different pieces, a friend might kind of dip into being like therapy, right? Yeah, okay. Bye, Dominique. So a friend might kind of dip into that, but they may or they may not. You may have a friend that doesn't offer you that mirroring back or doesn't offer you the opportunity to go deeper, at which point you may want to seek a therapist. If something is continuing to have you feel like you're really, really, sounds good, me. So you might have to talk to a therapist. If you don't have someone in your life that can really help you to go deep in a place where you feel like you're now freed from the thing that was having you stuck. Because the thing that's having you stuck, in just, talking about therapy and how important it is, it may affect if you seek out a consultant or a coach. You may go to organization that I always talk about, score.org or Small Business Development Center. Both of those organizations provide free business consulting. You may go to an SBDC consultant and the SBDC consultant says, oh my goodness, Lisa, you have amazing ideas. Here's 3 pages of things that you need to do moving forward. When you come back, I'll help you do this thing and we'll do this together. And they'll say, hey, just let me know whenever you're ready to come back. But if you have something that has you feeling stuck, or you're feeling like you're not good enough, or you're feeling like you're not ready, or you're feeling overwhelmed with life, or you're feeling like you're having a lot of challenges at home, if things are showing up for you, like someone said, no, you will never become a successful entrepreneur, and you felt that, it's not going to be as effective for you to seek out the consultant without working through the deep issues, okay? So sometimes you need therapy before you even go to a consultant. And then in terms of a coach, the difference between the consultant and the coach, and where you might need a coach instead of a consultant, is, so when I went to SCORE before. I've used SBDC. I actually encourage my clients to use those resources even as they're using me as a coach. So you might go to SBDC or SCORE and they say, hey, let me know next time you're ready to talk. Whereas I'm like, hey, so you said Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. This is what you're doing. You're placing it in your calendar so that is accomplished. And our next session is next week, Tuesday. So by next week, Tuesday, we're saying that these are the outcomes, this, that. And everybody who knows me or who's coached with me or who has been my student in the past knows that I'm very loving. My clients say that I'm loving yet honest. So I want to be like, hey, I'm so excited to hear about what you were able to do. So tell me, what happened when it came to the operating agreement? What did you work on? Oh, great. How did the time go? Awesome. And then if that didn't work out, we're going to talk through it, right? So if you feel like you need more accountability that's very consistent and the action planning that's very specific, you may want a coach. But there are some consultants that have kind of a coach spirit, just like there's some therapists that have somewhat of a coach style. So the therapist may say, so when's the last time that you said you were going to get that done? So what's stopping you? So some therapists are a little bit more, I want to say aggressive, but intentional around pushing you, right? Some therapists are more listeners. So you also have to know what kind of support you need when you go to these different things, okay? So mentorship is the last piece that I'm gonna be talking to you about. So a mentor uses their experience or uses experiences of those around them, people who they know or who they don't know, and they'll say either you should go down a certain path or you shouldn't go down that certain path. So if you say, I want to have a high position in higher ed. I believe I want to be a dean of student affairs one day. can you tell me about the path that you took to become a dean? And they'll be like, oh, okay, this is what I did, then I did this, they might be telling their story for like 20 minutes, which is great because you're going to find out a whole bunch of information. I am a strong believer in mentorship. Then you may ask for advice. You may not, right? If you ask for advice and say, what do you think I should do? Oh, you don't need to get that PhD you're talking about. Instead, you need to get a master's. I think you should do this. I think you should do that. I have a friend over here who did this. I can connect you to him. So it's mostly about giving advice in mentorship based on your experience, or again, based on experiences of other people. So if you're okay with getting the advice, there are only a small portion of the mentors that I've had that are like, do this, do this, do that. One of my favorite mentors, some of you all know here on the line, Dr. Stephanie Evans from the University of Florida. I heard that she did a lot of community service when I was an undergrad. And so I went to her and I was like, hey, I heard you do a lot of community service in the community. I want to really impact the community. I want to have, be a social change agent. I don't even know if I knew that word. I was like, yeah, I want to do all these things. I heard that you do that too. So could you tell me how to be more like you? And she was like, what graduate degree are you getting? And I was like, what's a graduate degree? The neighborhood I came from, we just didn't know that much about graduate degrees. So I was like, what's a graduate degree? And she was like, this is what I need you to do. I need you to come to me with 5 master's degree programs that you're going to attend. I need you to look up 3 PhD programs that you might be interested in. And then she spoke all these things into my life, said I was going to have a school one day and all kinds of stuff. But I was just trying to hear her story so I could be like her. But she was a mentor and she was a coach who held me accountable to take a next action step, and I didn't have any choice in it though. So yeah, so it was even more than coaching. It was some hardcore stuff, but it was awesome. So sometimes you need a mentor, and some mentors will tell you the story. I think it's so important to hear other people's stories because then you can avoid challenges. So one of the things that I do as a coach is I say, hey, I know that you said that you want to be a ministry leader. You want to start a women's ministry that's gonna go across the U.S. You want to speak, you want to do workshops, you want to do seminars. I have a friend who does just that. How would you feel about speaking with her and having a conversation? We could even come up with the questions during our coaching session. And then my client will say, yes, sure, usually. Some clients will be like, I'm not sure if I should do that. But I'm usually like, talk to her, please. So when they talk to the person, which is, again, me dipping in the mentorship. But so in them talking to that person, then they can come back and tell me, you know what, this is what I found. One client today, we've been working together for 4 weeks. When we first started working together, she was like, I have no idea what I want to do. This has been happening over and over again. This year, people have come to me and they're like, I have no idea what I want to do moving forward. And so one of the things that I had to do was have a lot of conversations with people in different areas that she was interested in. By our last session today, she knows what she needs to do. She knows why she wants to do it. She's very, she has all her plans laid out, spreadsheets, all kinds of things, right? But after having a number of different conversations with people, and people said sometimes opposite things, you need to get a PhD. Someone's like, you don't need a PhD, you don't even need a master's, you just need to go for it. Some people said, I need a master's. And so as a coach, I said, okay, so you heard this, this, and that. What resonates with you most and why? This? Okay. So tell me about what resonates with you that's kind of second on that priority list. All right. So what's the difference between the thing that resonates with you most and the thing that resonates with you on that second tier? Okay. Based on that, are you leaning in one direction and why? Why are you leaning in that direction? Okay. So you mentioned before that you said that one of your most major values was this. Is that first priority in alignment with this value? Yes? Great. So it sounds like to me, from what you said, because a coach is mirroring, that you said you want to do this, you want to do that, this is the reason why, and it aligns with your values. Tell me how correct that is. Based on that, what's your next step when it comes to this? So I'm taking the mentorship that I suggested that she do, and I'm using my coaching skills to help her decide how do you sift through this information in order to figure out where you need to go, okay? So we went over, mentorship, we went over coaching, we went over consulting, went over therapy. So let me just clarify again, like when you should seek out which of these things, okay? Because I have used all these things in my life, okay? So when it comes to the friendship, when you need someone, so different friends serve different kind of different needs, right? So I think as we get older, hopefully you see that like you have a friend that's just kind of like the fun friend. You have the friend who's like the all wise friend. You have the friend that's like gonna take you back and reminisce about old stuff kind of friend. You have friends that give good advice. You have all these different kinds of friends. So your friends are most likely going to come to you from a place of their experience and their perspectives. Okay? And then some friends are more likely to, some people are irritated by this, but for some friends, when you tell them something about yourself, they're going to tell you something about themselves. And they might bring the conversation over to themselves, right? They may move it back over to you. So a friend conversation, it goes where the conversation flows. You could talk about the news, then you're talking about finances, then you're talking about love and relationships, then you're talking about religion. The conversation flows however it will. The person is more subjective. They're coming from their perspective. And based on what we've hopefully learned about friends over the past few years, different friends play different roles. Okay, that's like, that'll change your whole life. Once you understand that, like some friends will be there for you all the time, some will not, right? Some are fun, some are not. So different friends play different roles, but subjective and going where the conversation flows. So if you need someone who you want to hear their opinion based on where they're coming from, or you don't want to go too deep, you're like, I just want to talk to someone who's hilarious. I call somebody from my college days back in anytime I call her, it's just a wonderful time. It is just beautiful. We're not best friends, but I just love her so much. So you might have a friend, you call them specifically so you don't go deep, and so they can make you laugh, or they can tell you something wise, right? Or whatever it is. So that's friendship. If you know that you kind of need to just unwind, hang out, go where the conversation flows, hear from their perspective, it might be friendship. And then of course we have friends that go deep with us too. So know what you need when you go into your friend. When it comes to consulting, if you want done for you services, you don't want to create the Facebook ad campaign, you want it done for you. You don't want to work on your resume, you want it done for you. You don't want to create the YouTube video script, you want somebody to do it for you. That's a consultant. That's a consultant. Done for you services. Okay? Done for you services is usually a consultant. Some do done with you, so they're collaborating with you on the services, but usually consultants are doing it for you. Okay? So then you have let's go to mentorship. So a mentor, if you feel like you need someone to tell you their journey, you're like, man, I was in church after I graduated from college, and I was like, man, I wish somebody would have told me that you need to get like 3 jobs after you graduate from college. And these guys were like, yeah, I was in Georgia. So they were like, yeah, nobody didn't tell you? You need when I got in college, I had 2 jobs. The person was like, you had 2 jobs, I had 4 jobs. And I was like, oh man, that would have been good to know. So they were telling me about their experience, and for me that was refreshing, because I was like, oh, it's not just me. Or, oh, I know what to expect now. Things got better, by the way. But I didn't know that. So when I was a freshman in college, I was asking seniors, how do I get a job when I graduate? When I was a senior, at a conference, I asked someone, hey, how do I make sure that I have a job now that I'm a senior? That's how I learned about informational interviews. I've always been someone to ask questions. So if you want to know what other people have done who are 10 steps ahead of you that has been successful, yes, mentorship is what you need to do. Do not be afraid to reach out to someone who's 5 steps ahead of you. Don't be afraid to reach out to the multimillionaire. If you're trying to have a multi-million-dollar company, if you want to have a multiple 6-figure company, don't be afraid to reach out to that person too. Know if they charge you to mentor. That's something you want to know before you reach out. But there are a lot of people who are willing to give you information on their journey if you just reach out to them, because they wish somebody would have done that for them. So mentorship. An example of when I used mentorship was I was looking for a job in education at one point, a higher level job. And so I was reaching out to a whole bunch of people who fit things that I thought would be in my kind of line of work. So I reached out to this man who had a very high position in a college prep organization. I had never met him before. And he sat on the phone with me for maybe an hour. I don't remember. It was a long period of time. And he basically prepped me for my whole interview that I had coming up. He was like, this is a next level interview. You need to be prepared. Here's what you need to do. And he was like, nobody did this for me, so I'm going to do it for you. Call me anytime. It was amazing. So I sought him out for mentorship. He gave me mentorship because I knew I needed someone who had been where I wanted to go to advise me on what I needed to do next. Okay? And I I think 90% of women CEOs, I think of Fortune 500 companies, according to someone who I heard speaking at an event a few months ago, they mentioned that 90% of CEOs said that they had a mentor who helped them to be able to get to where they needed to go. So mentors, okay? So that's when you would have a mentor. So the next thing I'll talk about is therapy. So I mentioned it earlier on the call, but if you feel anxiety, depression, you feel lost, you feel overwhelmed, you feel stuck, someone in your life, a boss, someone in your relationship, a child, your child, somebody has you feeling broken when you're interacting with them, or even broken when you're apart from them, therapy may be the answer for you. If you feel like you're not operating at your best and you feel like there's something you can't put your finger on that's preventing you from operating at your best, therapy may be the answer for you. If you feel like certain habits are showing up in your relationships that you really don't like, and you feel like there's some deeper reason for that, it may be therapy for you, okay? Maybe what you should explore, in my opinion. So an example of seeking out therapy is, let's say you are feeling overwhelmed as a parent, and you don't know why, you don't know what to do. You may decide to seek out a therapist if it's having you feel in such a way you're crying, you can't stop feeling like down. You may want to consider seeking out therapy. And then lastly, I think I covered all the bases, coaching. So when you might want to seek out a coach is when you feel like there's something that you want to get accomplished, but you're trying to figure out how to get to that place that you want to accomplish, so your vision, and you also feel like you want accountability to get there. So you're feeling like, if only I had some more accountability and clarity, I feel like I'd be able to get to that place that I need to get. Or if you're thinking, if only I was able to shift some of the habits that I have in place and to have kind of a sounding board for what it is I'm trying to do, I feel like I would still, I would be able to better reach whatever goal that I'm trying to reach. So some of the clients that I worked with this year needed a job, or and got, positions, $15,000 promotion, $20,000 promotion. Some people were in a senior position and wanted to get to a more senior position, but weren't sure, even though they might have had a development plan in their jobs, they felt like they needed some more accountability and a push, and maybe even an exploration of who they were and who they could be to get to that position. So they knew the practical steps to get there possibly, or maybe they didn't, but they needed someone to kind of give them an extra push and also ask some hard questions to be able to help them to get to that position. Or I have a number of people who had businesses and they wanted to get their businesses to the next level. Whether they had an idea and they had like all these different things that they knew they needed to do to get to their goal, but there wasn't an order to it, or they just weren't clear on how to get to the end point, and they just needed someone to help them to get there, to kind of be their partner on the way, to push and to clarify. So those are different reasons why you would seek out a friend versus a mentor versus a therapist versus a coach. And I think it's so important to talk about these things because I feel like some people are confused and they're not really sure who to pursue when. So the way that I coach is a mixture of coaching, mentorship, and consulting. Not therapy, but coaching, mentorship, and consulting. But everything comes, the core of what I do is from a coaching perspective. So I'm going to be asking you questions. I'm going to be clarifying the direction. I'm going to be clarifying the action steps, even as we have gone over what it is that you need to do. So again, thinking through, well, what day and time? Well, how often? Well, how will you measure your success? Well, what metrics are you using to measure that? So how many are you committing to do this week? By what time this week? Or by what day this week? What's stopping you? How are you going to address those things that are stopping you? If that doesn't work, what are you going to do? You need to have a critical conversation. What are the different ways that it can go? If it goes this way, how will you respond? If it goes this way, how will you respond? If it goes this way, how will you respond? Okay, sounds good, because research shows people who are more successful plan out the worst case scenarios and create solutions. So let's go about creating the solutions. By next week, I would like to hear about this, and that based on what you told me. What accountability might you need from me between this week and next week to make that happen? So that's why coaching should, at best, produce results where you see people moving forward, because we're talking about it every week. Like, what is it? Or every 2 weeks, or whenever we're doing our coaching sessions, what do you need to do to move forward? So if you have any more questions about those things, coaching versus therapy versus mentorship versus consulting versus friendship, feel free to inbox me. Feel free to comment. If this was helpful for you, as always, comment and let me know. It really is helpful. I was racking my brain off of what I could do, what I could offer you all today that would be most helpful and most valuable. I was trying to discern and think and discern and think and discern based on everything that's going on in our society. I know that people are pursuing therapy, coaching. I'm still getting clients coming in consistently, and I have clients that are therapists that are growing their therapy practices, a few of my clients, and they're having people coming in consistently as well. So I really felt like, you're welcome, Joyce. And this is a great time for people who have more time on their hands. I have clients who are teachers, and they have more time on their hands all of a sudden. So they're actually using it to plan out their goals and their dreams. And so you may decide to seek out a consultant. So I'm so glad that this was helpful. I honestly was glad. Like, I really was like, what should I talk about? Because I really want to be a blessing to people, and I want to be intentional around how I'm interacting with people and how I'm serving people during this time. So thank you so much. Like, I really appreciate you saying that this was helpful, Arnell. Joyce, thank you. All right, and then feel free to like this, share it with people who you think it could be helpful for, because I think this was even confusing to me. Like, what is a coach versus before I became a coach? So I'm glad it was helpful, and I hope you all have a really great night, and I'm sending peace and blessings and love and light to every single person who views this live or afterwards. Like, seriously, peace, love, blessings in everything that you're experiencing during this time and beyond. Bye. Good night.